Good morning all. Snippet number 2 of how light affects health. Yesterday we set off with a bang with regards to food sensitivities and light and the ability of UVB and vitamin D synthesis to alter gene expression, which then might make you less sensitive to wheat. So have a look at that snippet if you haven't seen it. Today we're going to talk about circadian rhythm and how that affects your whole body in a snippet form. So in order to think about circadian rhythm, we have to think about what guides our circadian rhythm. And you have two main oscillators. You have the internal oscillator, which is your SCN, or your suprachiasmatic nucleus, which sits just behind the eyes. And then you have external oscillators. So you have your light and dark cycles. But the key thing is to understand that your external oscillators, i.e. your light and dark cycles, are able to override, fine-tune and reset your internal oscillators, which is vital to understand. Because that means at night time, you are able to override your internal oscillator that's trying to send everyone to bed, trying to send the message around the body that it's bedtime, let's get ready to relax, let's get ready to rest and recover. By having the wrong kind of lighting on in the evening, you are overriding that signal being sent round. So that's crucial to understand. The other great thing about it though, is getting up in the morning, getting outside, getting morning daylight on your face, on your eyes, allowing those specific ratios of wavelengths to penetrate your eyes and get signals into your SCN. What that's able to do is that's able to fine tune those internal clocks. So that's able, maybe you went to bed late last night because you overrode your internal oscillator by having bright lights on. So you can get up and get some morning daylight on your face into those eyes, and then what happens is you reset your internal oscillator. So, can you just do it with light? Artificial light? Yes, you can to a certain extent. That's the whole point of those light boxes, is that they reset that internal oscillator and are quite beneficial in the winter time. But we still know that morning daylight, morning sunlight has the right ratio of light, because those light boxes are very, very narrow on the wavelengths of light that they emit. And our body responds better to a much larger, broader spectrum of light because we've evolved to be receptive to that. And what they do is they start, like, that light hits the eyes and it's able to raise cortisol levels, which in morning time is good because that halts the melatonin production. And so what we need to do is have a bright light source in the morning, i.e. daylight, because remember, daylight is still often 10 to 100 times more bright than inside your house. So daylight works, and daylight has the right ratio of wavelengths of light to hit the retina, to send the signals back into the SDN, to send all the signals around the body that is daylight and ready to wake up. Because what we know is that people that get those morning daylight, is their mood improves, their perception of certain events actually improves. We also know that there are fantastic studies where people have looked at those people in hospital, and those that have been next to windows, those that have been in well-lit rooms, well-lit daylight rooms, have recovered faster from depression, have recovered faster from even heart attacks. They've spent less time in hospital, their mood has been elevated, their recovery has hastened because of natural daylight and what it can do to the body. Because not only does the bright light in the morning halt melatonin levels, It also resets that clock so you're able to start producing melatonin at an earlier time in the evening. And subsequently, if you're able to start producing melatonin at an earlier time in the evening, then your melatonin peak might be slightly higher when you go to bed. Now, again, because you can override your internal oscillator by having bright lights on the evening, you can undo all that goodness of that morning light by having bright lights on in the evening. And just remember those two studies that I said about people that had clinical depression recovered quicker when they were in well-lit rooms and did morning daylight. Dementia sufferers that had 2 weeks of morning daylight had dramatic improvements in anxiety and agitation. People recovering from myocardial infarction or heart attacks spent less time in hospital. And this is by having daylight in the morning. This is by having daylight and not living under artificial light all the time. Because those external oscillators have a very, very powerful effect on overriding, resetting, or fine-tuning your internal oscillator. And that's why getting out in the morning, getting that bright light onto your face, that bright light, allowing that light to go unfiltered into your eyes, unfiltered by glasses, I mean, not unfiltered by the lens, into your eyes, that send the right signal to the brain to fine-tune your own circadian rhythm and allow a productive surge of melatonin production earlier than if you didn't do it. We've all done it. We've all spent the day inside when it's been miserable outside and we feel lethargic. We feel slightly more and that's an occurrence of not getting outside into the daylight. So even when it's damp and dark outside, in the summertime here in Norway specifically, it's still brighter outside than it probably is inside your home. So it's still worth getting outside and allowing your circadian rhythm to fine-tune, to reset, to understand that it's daytime and we'll be productive, we'll have a better perception of stuff, we'll be better at motor skills, we'll be better at decision making, and we'll sleep better tonight if we don't ruin it by overriding the internal oscillator by having too brighter lights.